pin him on that when we get there in November. He's not going to get away. I'm going to have to ask questions.
You totally can. You can totally ask the interstellar.
You're going to have questions about project management. Are you planning some kind of novel in the future where you've got a logistics person?
Maybe I'm going to have one in my next series.
I think logistics people in the last Hunter series.
They do. It just I put him off somewhere else and then didn't use him again, so he vanished after a while.
Oh, I liked that one.
I did too, but sometimes you've got too many characters, and I shipped him off somewhere, and then I never brought him back, and so wasted opportunity on my part. But the next series, I can totally bring a project manager into this.
So you're telling me that the guy who figures out where certain stuff is hidden in a warehouse gets shipped somewhere and forgotten in another That's just rude.
That's just Indiana Jones.
Well, I ended up moving him to, they found a huge store of supplies and equipment that go for the battleships, and I shipped him off to manage that because it made the most sense, and then never dragged him back in.
Aw.
But in the next series, there's all kinds of things going on there. I could definitely find somebody that's a project manager, and I'll even make him a redhead.
Would you call him a project manager, though? I mean, I think project engineer.
No, project engineer is to do with building. If you're not building something, you don't need an engineer.
But if you're flowing and allocating resources for certain services, it could be engineering. I mean, think about industrial engineers. Industrial engineering is all about people and processes and how they interact. It's like industrial psychology. It's not like straight up clinical psych.
I could have a total
of organizations and people.
I could have a total fight with a project engineer and a project manager getting into fisticuffs. That's mine. No, that's mine. That's mine.
You give me back my clipboard.
How dare you steal my resources?
Oh my God, it's pathetic. It sounds like IT.
Do you know how many hours I put into that project? And then you steal it?
Yeah, I quit a job for that reason. Well, I quit. Turns out if they eliminate your job, you had like 3 months to find another gig, or they just basically gave you your severance and kicked you out the door. Yeah, that's how I started my podcast. I was so pissed off, I was like, I'm not doing a fucking thing. You guys are going to have to fire me. It was my last fuck you to that goddamn miserable company. Those. Yeah, pretty much.
Aww.
The love cats. Soon we'll be taking a windowsill from you. The love cats.
His ears are so dirty, I have to take care of them. They're so dirty.
This is senior care because he's 15 going on 16, so he's an old man. She's taking care of him.
Aww.
Simple baby.
That's so cute. Howdy, folks, and welcome to another episode of the Dead Robot Society. I am Paul E. Cooley. Joining me today, Veronica Jaguar and Mr. Terry Mixon.
Jazz hands!
We wish he wasn't here. Alas, he's contractually obligated to be here, and I'm contractually obligated to let him on the show.
We have contracts?
You don't remember signing those?
Were these negotiated by our union?
We have a union?
Oh, that's right. You weren't conscious when you signed these documents.
That bloody thumbprint? Yeah, that was somebody else. That wasn't even me.
I mean, you signed that durable power of attorney. I own your ass now. It's just a question of
there is that.
That sucker out and, say, on behalf of Terry Mixon, I say we do this. It's all over then. I own you.
You're going to have to take that up with your sugar daddy.
Oh, that's a really good point.
Might be a bit
what the hell have you been up to?
I have been surviving school graduations and so much planning that I am never volunteering or being voluntold for anything school related. If it's voluntold, I got roped into this. I was one of 3 parents that got roped into it, and was like, oh, well, these 2 people are doing this, so you can handle planning the senior picnic, right? What does that entail? All of it. Oh, shit. So, granted, I managed to get everything set up to have a senior picnic for a graduating class of 138. Most of them showed up, and I didn't have a lot of left over, which was fantastic. But by Tuesday, I was totally wiped because we had to pick everything up. Oh, and Monday night, when I picked up all of the donations that parents had signed up to donate, only half the people actually delivered.
That's pretty much how that works.
Yeah, I was annoyed. So yeah, but got stuff fixed and had the picnic, and it went really well. And then there was graduation, and so my younger son finally graduated high school. Yay! And
How far away is he from home?
oh, for school, he's going to be
Wherever he's living at now. I don't know how distant it is.
Oh, so the oldest who graduated college is an hour and a half south of us.
Okay.
And then the one who just graduated high school, he's going to USF, so University of South Florida, and that is 2 hours west of us on the Gulf Coast. So, easy enough to pop home for a long weekend, and for him, definitely, it's far enough away to go. I don't really want to drive that far. Oh dear, my coffee mug chipped. I just realized that.
Oh, noes.
I know. To find a super goose. But anyway,
I can't tell what
so I
says
was
it's
like-
not far enough.
nah. I mean, granted, I was like 15 hours from home when I did that. So they're all taken care of. But once pretty much Wednesday hit, and I was like, I cannot do anything. And then Thursday, it's like, I can do some things, but not a lot. And then yesterday, I got a little bit done and went, nope, not. So today's the first day in like a week I feel halfway human.
Oh, must be nice to feel that way.
How long until the youngest is off to college?
3 years.
3 years?
3 years.
Gosh, the empty nest thing is going to hit you guys hard.
Maybe. I mean, I'm not one of those like super sentimental people. So like when I went off to kindergarten, I like waved goodbye to my mom and ran. She was in tears. Same thing happened when I went off to college. I wasn't homesick. I actually got called out by my dad on the phone that afternoon. It's like, your mother's in the airport crying because you weren't upset. What is wrong with you? I was like, was I supposed to be?
When I joined the Army, I was not sad at all to leave home, and I called home once a week to talk with them. But I was not displeased at all to be gone from home. It's not because I disliked them. I just was never close to my parents. Yeah. They were 50 years older than I was, and that's a huge bit to overcome for a young man.
Yeah, everybody has different relationships, and my oldest is very independent, but he'll still chat me every so often. The younger one, about the same. There's certain things that they'll both go, Mom, can I ask you about this? Sure. And then the youngest is a lot closer to me. So but she's going to be the one who's likely going to go out of state and be at least a plane flight away when that happens. But
that's far
and
enough
then after
away.
that, it's far enough away. And after that, my husband's already like, yeah, so that's when we start to do all of the cruises. And I'm like, I'm right there. We'll just do narrating part-time, and then I'll be able to sit on a deck chair and write. It'll be great.
That would be awesome.
It would be
That
awesome.
would be awesome.
So what about you, Terry?
Hang on, I'm answering a question. There we go.
He's typing in a bubble.
No, it's just I type very shitty. That's the way it works. What was the question? What am I doing this week?
Yes.
Jack all. I mean, I haven't done much of anything. So I've been involved with it's not been, I needed to do some things around the house, and some of it was definitely screwing off, but I'm ready to get back into the novel and get things going again. I'm still on schedule. I had some time built up, so I'm fine.
Okay. Yeah, buffer days are knowing how you build in buffer days and where you can like borrow time from, or when you can flex your schedule is super important. So I hear that.
So to answer your question, Paul, I've been very unproductive this week. But not for any reason like you have been unproductive, just F off type unproductive.
I wish I could have F off unproductive. You remember how 2023 was a really bad year for me?
24 is shaping up to be worse?
2024 is shaping up to be epically worse.
Did the universe not get the memo? I mean, do we have to like hunt somebody down and beat them up?
Is that like 2 or 3 years in a row where you kept going, I hope next year is better, and it's worse, and it's worse, and it's worse? What are you going to do in 2025? I mean, holy Jesus.
I think I'm just going to drink myself to death. It's got to be easier than this bullshit. It's got to be more fun. I looked at my sister this morning, and she's like, what are we going to do? And I said, well, the liquor store opens up in 30 minutes. Time to fist fight the universe.
Yeah, too bad you live in a state with blue laws. Although I don't know if those are still active anymore. Sundays are bad for you then.
I think you can buy at 10 on Saturdays. I think. I don't know. I don't remember.
I'm not sure what used to be Sunday. You couldn't buy alcohol until noon or something like that.
That's how it was.
You still can't buy liquor on Sundays, I don't think.
You can, but it used to be that you could buy it, but not in the morning. And the only reason I know that is my parents ran a drive-in grocery when I was little, and they couldn't open up till noon on Sunday.
Right, but that changed. Because now they're allowed to sell wine and beer inside their grocery stores 24/7, pretty much.
Yeah, but they may not actually be able to ring them up if the laws are still in effect.
Yeah, because when I worked Kroger in Lexington, we would have people waiting until, I forget if it was 12 or 1, but they would be waiting, and the registers were actually programmed that until the timer hit whatever, you could not ring them up. And people got really pissy. You'd think after,
sure.
Going to church and putting your dollars in the donation plate, you'd get some grace to give to the poor checkout girl, but...
You're correct. It's at 10 o'clock on Sundays, and maybe it was that way back in the 70s or 80s. I don't remember.
It used to be. I think back in the old days, in the 70s, 80s, I'm pretty sure you couldn't buy it on Sunday anywhere.
Well, that may have been the case. I honestly have no idea. I just remember there was some restriction, whatever it was.
Brett says, funny enough, most of the bars in my hood, Sunday afternoon is their busiest time. Oh, yeah. I don't doubt it. I am currently dealing with a lot of family stuff. The hits just keep on coming in ways that I can't even get into, but I spent the night at the hospital last night. Well, not the entire night, but I spent 8 hours yesterday in the ER.
But not for yourself.
Not for myself. So hopefully things will get a little better for... we'll just have to see how things go this weekend. Yeah. I'm not going to say I'm not stressed out, because I am totally fucking stressed out. But I did manage to eke out 2,000 words throughout this madness. I took my laptop with me to the hospital and never got to use it. But I have a feeling that's going to change, because I have a feeling I'll be at the hospital a lot this next week. So got to get back on the horse as far as using the laptop and all that garbage. So that's where things pretty much are at this point. But we're not here to talk about that.
Actually, before we start talking about other things, if you didn't see pictures that I posted inside the Discord or on Facebook, I don't have cats, I have beavers. Because
I forgot you had to talk about beavers.
I forgot about that. They tore up the cardboard tubes that held up the cat tree that you no longer see behind me. So it was like teetering a little bit when one of the cats jumped on it, and that's how I found out that they had basically made it unbalanced and unlivable. So I tore it apart and threw away most of it and took some pieces of it and created a little cat hidey hole over here beside the desk for them to utilize.
Gotcha.
But I could not believe that they tore up the whole thing.
I
mean,
can.
gosh.
How long have you had it?
Long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Carrie looked at our cat treat the other day. She's like, it's been through 5 cats. It might be time to get a new one or at least recarpet it.
I think, gosh, I'm pretty sure that it was at least 10 years old. Pretty sure.
It'll last a long time.
They can,
can't
as
be.
long as, I don't know, the one that's next to me that the cats use when they decide to grace me with their presence. It's okay, except the scratching post part with the sisal rope is completely shredded. Like, I need to go to Home Depot and get a coil of the stuff and rewrap it myself.
Is that heavy cardboard underneath it?
Yes. I think
That's what they did to mine, but I just ignored the fact that the size. You may want to look right up under there and make sure they haven't started destroying the cardboard tubes.
Well, I can see the cardboard. That's what I'm saying. It's been they don't chew on it.
It was their claws. They kept doing their claw thing. It's not that they chewed on it. They just kept doing this at the highest part, directly underneath the platform above, where you can't see it unless you tilt your head down and look underneath it. And that's how I found it. So you might want to peek under there a little bit and see.
I'll take a look, because the bigger one, he'll like do the big stretch, but perpendicular, and then scritch down. And then the little one, who I am part tabby, part mountain goat. She will run up and she'll do the manic kind of jump, and all 4 paws with murder hooks extended. And she's just on the side, like some really weird barber pole accoutrement. And eyes look really big. It's like, look where I am.
She looks like a heraldic symbol for cats.
Yes. And then
Felis rampant.
Felis
she
Rex.
yells-
Felis rex rampant.
Yeah.
On
Then
that
it's
note.
on that note. Yeah. She's a weirdo. Of course she's my cat.
I have a question. Actually, V had a question.
I do have a question.
What is your question?
So, as someone who likes to write space opera and who narrates her fair share of space opera and science fiction, I've realized that it's very rare that stories have like this exact same means of leaving Earth. And like, so high speed space travel, faster than light space travel, hyperspace travel, portal space travel. And sometimes you get it explained as to how the ship works. Like, we've always had the eject the warp core, something goes wrong, but you're going to be stranded if you eject the warp core. Gosh darn you. You've already done that once this season. You can't do it again.
And you might even be able to make the Kessel run in 12 parsecs.
You
Hush.
but, how does it work? How much detail do you need to give it? And, is it important that you have faster than light travel and that you explain how it happens?
I have an initial answer to that, and it's only important if you intend to have the story take place on different worlds. If you're taking place on one planet, whether they can leave is pretty much irrelevant.
Okay, so, but like space opera where you have to travel.
Then it's important.
Okay.
By definition, it's important, because if you're having a space opera and you're traveling at sublight speeds where you're topped out at, say, let's be generous and say 1% of the speed of light that you're traveling. That's a long time to get between systems, and your story is going to drag on and on and on.
I mean, that's like some Oregon Trail level of travel.
That's some stasis level travel.
That's
words-
generation ships, and there are
it's
stories that
generation
talk about generation ships,
Yeah.
but I'm not quite sure those count as space opera. They're too slow.
They could. Well,
If you're talking space opera, part of space opera is the scale. And if you're just limited to a single ship and what's going on there, I'm not really sure that's technically space opera.
well, okay, so one of the stories that I have it's an outline mode. I do have generational travel, but once the generational travel is more a function of the backstory, because in the time that it took for the generation ship to get where it needed to go, technology had caught up, and essentially the generation ship people get scooped by the folks who are 100 years younger and who, pew, look, our flag is here first, haha.
That's where you land and you kill them all.
That doesn't seem
all
like a
like
very
look.
space opera thing to do.
That was our planet. We bought it. Now get off.
No.
Actually, I've seen that particular storyline used in a novel where people arrived and somebody had beaten them there by that, and then the conflict started. Because the people that were there going, it's ours, and the ones that arrived say, yeah, but we came to conquer a planet that might have been hostile. We've got lots of guns. Let's see what happens.
Again, not very space opera-y.
No, but it's a story.
Yeah.
This is true. Okay, so I don't write space opera.
Right. But you write science fiction that happens
But I do write
in
science
space.
fiction. I try and give as little information away as how something works as possible.
Space pineapples.
Yeah, it might as well be space pineapples. I mean, there's really the less you put in there about how something works, the more likely you are to get away with it. Because the moment you tip your hand at how ignorant you are of how physics works, you're going to shut down a whole bunch of people and also cause problems for yourself later, in my humble estimation. So it's best to be as sparse as possible. Now, if Terry goes with this idea of these people being trapped in some kind of hyperspace thing between, in a wormhole or something like that, then the means of travel have got to be at least discussed and dealt with in some way, in my mind, because it is such a large part of what the story is. And it's a large part of what the universe is. So there's going to have to be some detail, even if it has nothing to do with science necessarily. There has to be some Handwavium in there to basically define what it is they're doing and how they're, not necessarily how they're doing it, but what it is, what are they doing.
Anyhow, I mean, so for those listening from Wikipedia, space opera is a subgenre of science fiction that emphasizes space warfare with the use of melodramatic, risk-taking space adventures, relationships, and chivalric romance. Set mainly or entirely in outer space, it features technological and social advancements, or lack thereof, in fast light travel, futuristic weapons, and sophisticated technology, on a backdrop of galactic empires and interstellar wars with fictional aliens, often in fictional galaxies.
The only part that I will disagree with that is I don't believe that chivalric romance is necessarily a factor in space opera. I don't know why that's included. It can have romance, and it can certainly include it, but it's not one of the defining facets of space opera in my mind.
I think if you look at less contemporary space opera and how stuff was set up in like your early Trek,
Yeah, I was going to say.
where James T. Kirk had no
has
protection.
to bang everything.
and we assumed that, the Federation condom was implied. I mean, that's all we have.
Actually,
Where did he keep
this
that?
is a high
setting on the phaser that you just basically phaser your junk to put a condom on it?
No. Here's what you got. This is Star Trek. It's got to be a little miniature deflector shield that goes around the weenie.
Exactly. It's just just a little rig and
Shields.
I mean, the biggest reason McCoy had a job was actually tending to all the STIs Kirk came back, because he spent all his time researching venereal disease from aliens. That's how that worked.
All I can see is Sulu doing that from when he was in command of Excelsior, going, Shields! Tribbles
were actually an STI. I buy
know.
it.
Star Trek is a terrible example of space opera. Star Wars is a much better example of space opera.
Chivalric romance, huh?
No, I'm not saying that it's chivalric romance. I'm saying that as
I
a
am.
setting and the type
I
of
am.
story. No, that's Kissing Your Sister. That's Arkansas space opera.
I was talking about Han and Leia, you bonehead.
Okay.
You sicko.
I'm pretty sure
Now
that
I'm
no one could call Han Solo chivalric.
Yeah, okay, so chivalric romance. It's a type of prose and verse narrative that was popular in the noble courts of high medieval and early modern Europe. They were often fantastic stories about marvel-filled adventures, often of a chivalric knight-errant portrayed as having heroic qualities who goes on a quest. So, if you look
Okay.
at... So, if you take out the...
So they're not actually talking romance. They're talking like in art being the romance era of
Yeah.
stuff. They're talking. So okay, I misinterpreted what that meant.
So did I. I mean, so...
Flash Gordon's definitely space opera. Buck
Yeah.
Rogers is probably a better example than Flash Gordon of being space opera.
Did they stay on Earth the entire time in Buck Rogers?
In the books, they did. In the
show, they
TV
didn't.
series and the movies, they did not. Not even close.
Yeah.
So I'm referring to the TV series is Flash of Buck Rogers being definitely that. Flash Gordon, it goes into space and it does stuff, but I'm not sure. Maybe it's kind of space opera adjacent.
Okay.
Space opera adjacent. I like that.
It's close. It's just maybe not quite there. It shows the big galaxy, but you don't get enough travel. You don't see enough things. You only go fight Emperor Ming on whatever planet he's on. That's kind of a small scale.
Oh, really? George Lucas wanted to make Flash Gordon?
Thank God he failed.
Like, oh, no.
Wait, he could spin off Jar Jar Binks into Flash Gordon.
No.
So
No,
we
and this
could-
is from someone who loves Star Wars. No. So
Misa gonna go ahead and do this Flash Gordon thing.
Misa gonna kick your ass. Sandra asks, so what would we call a soap opera telenovela in space?
Firefly?
Maybe.
No, I'm not joking. Because
I'd say yeah, maybe.
because with Firefly, you have it focuses just as much on the interpersonal conflicts between members of the crew. There are entire episodes devoted to Mal's love life. There's constant tension between him and Inara. You have the relationship between Wash and damn it, Gina
Rachel?
Torres' character.
Was it Rachel?
No.
No,
No.
Gina Torres' character. I can't believe I'm blanking on that.
Somebody in chat will
But-
tell us.
Yeah, of course. But I think there's enough there with the story balances just as much on the inner workings and interactions of the crew and the storylines within the ship as it does with their interactions with the places that they go. And the interactions with the places that you go, that is far more space opera. But then, thank you, Zoe.
Zoe Washburn?
Yeah.
So when you combine the two, that's when you get that's when you get Firefly. But if you have less of the interpersonal dynamics and more of the travel and the one-shot interactions, that's when you get your Trek, your Star Wars you did really have, but I tend to put Star Wars as fantasy that happens to be in a interstellar setting versus science fiction.
Where does BSG sit in that?
Space opera.
Okay.
Now, if you want to talk the more modern one, it's still space opera, but it might actually edge over into military science fiction.
I can see that. Yeah. That's a really fine line
Yeah,
there.
all of these are there's fine lines in between them, and there's a lot of crossover between them. what I write is space opera with military themes, but a lot of people call it military science fiction. It depends on the user, tomato, tomato, but that they can be right on the borderline and be both.
So that said, how the hell do these things get to where the hell they're going?
Any way that you can imagine. If you can think of it, Rule 34 says it's been tried.
Okay, so I'm just going to bring out Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. There was a running gag about the infinite improbability drive. Then
Hang on.
every time you used it. Yes?
I want her to say that because I was waiting for her to respond that way.
Yeah,
but that's not right.
That's not what Rule 34 is.
Well, it would definitely be Rule 34 if you consider a certain author we know that writes space drive that's powered by orgasms.
Well, there was that, and then there's also the one that's powered by interstellar aliens who are tended to and satisfied by their human companions, and that's hyperloop travel, but that's totally different.
But yeah, I totally said that with the intent of getting a reaction, so I wanted to get that reaction, so thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Monster Whisperer. Anyway, that's the hyperloops, not the fueled by orgasms. Anyway, that's just rewarded by. Anyway.
Hat tipped to Nobilis.
Hat tipped to Nobilis.
Yes, who truly writes some of. It's a very good example of writing how a ship gets from point A to point B and giving just enough information to go, that's interesting, I want to keep reading, but not getting so bogged down in the details so that you can focus on other aspects of the story. And like with Terry, the Empire of Bone series, you've got flip points and a flip point drive, which that is a mouthful to say when you're trying to say quickly. Oh
I bet it is. I probably should have come up with, a more effective name, but yeah, I'll try to do that in the next series, be more effective as far as my naming scheme.
So.
What the hell?
I just stripped him over in his belly.
This is the feline acrobatic drive. If you pet long enough, then the purrs will.
It's the purr drive.
Rift, and you'll be able to kind of vibrate through it.
One of the most interesting space drives that I read about was from an old space opera series, where the main character was named Commodore Grimes, and I forget I think it was written by a guy named Chandler, and his drive was nothing but strange, oblong, weird shapes that defied the mind's eye of being able to read them. And when they spun, they warped space and they moved the ship that way. And if you came too close to them while they were running, it could literally turn you inside out and put your outsides on the inside and the insides on the outside, which happened to somebody in one of those stories. But yeah, it's definitely the strangest thing that I've ever read as far as space drive. So anything you can imagine, it can definitely happen.
I'm just thinking of a space drive. It changes dimensions. So fission is going from 3D to 2D, and fusion is going from 3D to 4D.
Well, how did the drive from Event Horizon?
That was a black hole they created.
Okay. All right.
They created a black hole to power what they were doing. That's a trippy movie in a lot of ways. I wish the director's cut existed, but it does not. It is a trippy movie. A very trippy movie.
That's one of those. It's one of the ones that I think of. It's like, okay, so one of those ships where it has a non-conventional way of traveling. That. Wow.
Rule 34: a black hole to power what they are doing. Okay, it's already posted a link to the book there.
Oh, to the John Grimes.
Yeah.
Okay. And then
Infinite monkeys.
Infinite hamsters.
Infinite hamsters. You've got the infinite improbability drive of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where every time they use it, it goes through infinite improbability, meaning they travel through every point in the universe at the same time and then coalesce wherever they're going. And reality does a lot of weird things while they're doing that. Oh,
Then-
Anna McCaffrey's Rowan used telekinesis for moving ships.
Mhm.
And then you've got,
And
what,
then-
Star Mage? I
No,
think it's
that's
the
not.
same kind of thing.
I know that the ship who sang. Is that it? Yeah, the ship who sang. You have brain ships, and those ships, because they were essentially the concept was that a person who was not mobile would wind up more or less becoming the neural aspect of a ship, and then they were paired with a person, and then those ships, as the ships leveled up, you could level up into what they called a singularity drive, which was kind of an FTL sort of thing, but it's not explained as to how those work.
Right. Right.
Which is really frustrating when you're trying to write about them. But how does this work? I don't know. We just said it did.
Yeah, you just say FTL drive. What does the FTL stand for? Faster than light. We
Faster
don't have to
than
do
light.
anything else.
Well,
Don't have to do
and I think
anything else.
sometimes you do. You have to explain, is there a recharge time? Does it run on a finite resource? Or, yep, Nick says Mass Effect drives.
I'm not familiar.
So
Bottom line is you figure out exactly how you're going to get them there and explain it with just as few words as possible, unless it is a significant part of the plot. Then you're
And
kind of screwed.
if it's a significant part of the plot, then how much do you have to say? Can you liken it to something? You say, well, it's kind of like your 21st century, nuclear power plants, or it's kind of like
I'm
I
messing
don't
with
know,
my
squirrels
plasma
in the
drive. Leave me alone. What does the plasma drive do? It allows us to go from one place to another in a hell of a hurry. Bing, bang, boom. Terry, on the other hand, if he's got a bunch of ships flying through a wormhole, he needs to, in my mind as a reader, I want to know what the boundaries are. I want to know at least some of the rules of how what he's doing works in his head.
In
And
the Empire universe, when many ships were coming through there, they had to go one at a time. They couldn't travel more than one at a time because only one could transit. So that was important. I did set that particular boundary when I was doing it. It's interesting. Like the next series I'm going to write, I just basically said I want to have something that's like the ocean, but it's going to be in hyperspace. So I'm basically stealing just about every kind of real world ocean thing and sticking it in hyperspace and adding a few extras to make it more like a sailing ship experience to travel between the stars. And that's actually a very common usage of making it so that your ships between the stars are more like sailing ships than they are. And that's really tapping into the whole master and commander vibe.
Yeah, and if you think about, I guess TNG, there was a lot of times where they were traveling from one place to another. All the stuff, all the interpersonal conflicts and everything else happened, or a lot of them anyway, while they were in freaking warp space, or whatever they call it. That's where they got a chance to basically ruminate about what happened or come up with their plans or whatever else, was when they were jumping between areas. And that's a great conceit for that, to basically say everybody needs to calm the hell down and have a moment. And then, as far as adjusting the plot, that's a good way to do it, in my humble estimation. I think if you have enough of those moments, then you can basically move the people along with the plot.
I
think
just
it's another way
posted
to do it.
a link into Live about a series that I thought was exceptionally well done, where the space drive that they used is definitely based on naval stuff, to the point where the main character is like a midshipman on a 18th or 17th century English warship. The whole sort of pulling that whole scenario into space. High technology doesn't work there. They have to go relatively primitive. So the worlds they're visiting may be extremely high technology, but they can't even have computers in their space when they're traveling. They don't work.
Interesting. That's very interesting. Reality is infinitely silly. Yes, it is, Scott. I think one of the cool things about the space travel, especially coming from it where it's nascent, is a lot of the characters don't understand the rules. We haven't explained the rules to the readers because we haven't even decided what the rules are. Our characters still don't know what the rules are at all because they're not responsible for it. So when it's nascent, it's a very different animal than when it's something that's been around for hundreds of years or dozens of years or whatnot. When you're using it for the first time or whatever else, it's just starting up and starting to get mature. Just imagine how terrifying that is. I mean, it'd be like getting on the first nuclear powered sub. You have no idea what's going to happen.
Imagine if you're moving around the solar system using an Orion drive.
Explain.
You've never heard the term? It's
Maybe.
a technologically feasible drive that was proposed in the 50s and 60s, I believe it
Is that
was.
the nuclear bomb drive?
Where you drop a nuclear bomb out the back and the explosion throws the ship forward. So
Yeah. Okay.
anything you could think of, it could probably, be shoehorned in.
See, I remember reading a book about this kind of stuff, and what they were talking about was taking a sphere of deuterium, concentrated deuterium, and basically making these things as little boulders and then basically shooting them out like pellets. And then each time they went into the drive, they would lase it and form a nuclear reaction.
Mm-hmm.
So basically,
I've read that exact thing being used in a novel. Then you got Heinlein. He had his torch ships where it kicked the vessel up to a very, very significant fraction of the speed of light, and they travel between star systems to explore on giant teardrop-shaped ships that just blew plasma out the back end.
My worry is the little bits of space dust that would pierce through the ship going any real speed. Yeah, I talked about that in an ancient trap. You have to, for my money, you would have to have a hell of a shield. I mean, covering all parts of the ship.
Here's the thing to remember,
Not just the
though.
front.
We're talking hard science fiction there. With space opera, you can wave some hands. Oh, yes, our deflector screens stop those little bitty pecks of gas and stuff, and then you're done.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways you could do that. You're going to need something, though. You are right about that. You are going to need something a little more substantial than a piece of glass. Because you catch this piece, a fleck of dust at 0.1 speed of light, I think you're going to have a problem.
In the series that I'm going to be starting writing next, I envision that they're not going to have a lot of problem with that because the other universe doesn't have matter in it. Not very much matter anyway. The chances of actually running into something are low. But during the initial story, they're going to get hit by something. And it's going to be something large enough and moving quickly enough, at least, to smash through the front part of this ship a little bit. And so it's going to be a plot point. Having that going, the odds of hitting something are infinitesimally small. Smash!
Never tell me the odds.
Yeah, and I made that a part of an ancient trap, is basically they get to where they're going and they're beat to shit. The ship took a lot of damage on the way there. And a little bit more than just superficial. That superficial is basically their armor is torn apart. And to get out of there, their armor is probably going to get torn apart again. So it's a constant worry of how are we going to re-prep this ship to get the fuck out of here? And that makes it a very central, plot point.
Do you remember the ship from the Black Hole?
Yeah. Which one?
The one that looked like a cruise liner, all lit up in glass and everything like that. I have that in mind to use as the top half of my ship, something very much like that, because in my universe that I'm going to work on, these ships are the only way you can get people and cargo anywhere. So the bottom part is going to be like a container ship, and the upper part is going to be like a luxury cruise liner, and it's just going to exist right there on the parts. But seeing something so visually stunning as, that ship, which I've forgotten its name, but all the lights on it and it's glowing and it looks like it's the Titanic. Yeah, pretty much. About to go hit something and sink.
I was about to say, it's like, and Terry's gonna make an iceberg.
I am gonna make an iceberg. God, what was the name of that ship?
Edge of space. It started with an R, didn't it?
Maybe.
Now I gotta look this up.
I do not.
But that was a beautiful model. I wouldn't mind having that model somewhere that cats couldn't destroy because it was beautiful.
Yeah, Maximilian. USS Cygnus.
Cygnus.
The death ship. Yeah. Yeah. USS Cygnus, which makes sense. Because I imagine I don't remember, but I imagine the black hole they were gone was Cygnus X1.
Could have been. Could have been.
Guessing. Oh, I didn't even check. Yeah, Brett had it faster than I did. Yeah, your mind is faster than my DuckDuckGo. What about it? Your mind is faster than my typing is what it comes down to. So what do you need to worry about when you're getting these people from A to B?
It depends on how much you want to handwave. I mean, if you're doing something where they're going to be in space for a long period of time and they're traveling, you have to worry about radiation. So are you even going to discuss it? Are you going to have radiation shielding? If you're talking about fast packet travel versus generational travel or shipping travel, then it's like how much of your ship is dedicated to preserving life versus just getting shit from point A to point B. And the one thing that I always struggle with, focusing on minutia, is thanks, chat. Is the effect of faster than light travel on, the human meat sacks that are in the ship.
There you go.
And because it's the how do you make sure that you're not creating human paste inside of your ship?
How are you handling fast acceleration?
Oops, our inertial dampeners flickered, and now everybody experienced 60 gravities, and they are paste.
Always a good time. And I was going to say, if you have to put people in stasis, what happens when there's a malfunction?
People die.
Literally, they happen, right?
Yeah, people die, or do you cause? What happens if it's something that can be hijacked? That's the other thing. If the longer you have people in space traveling, and the more systems and people you have to support, the more opportunities you have for stuff to be hijacked.
Oh, you mean fuckery.
Espionage. Yeah. Yes. Extreme intergalactic fuckery.
We need to make an acronym for that.
From
yes.
Stargate Universe, we're going to make JR happy here. We're going to mention the Destiny from Stargate Universe, the ship that they got themselves trapped on that was traveling through space. It was a derelict that they had to try to figure out. That's also a pretty ship.
I like the idea of pretty ships. I made everything in derelict as blocky and industrial looking as possible. There's no frills on any of that shit. Matt says, how about worrying about time? If you're bending 3 dimensions, what happens if the fourth goes wonky too?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the first things that we handwave when we're talking about FTL travel, is we go, yeah, time. No. We're assuming everyone is on the same standard, and then it's only, I think, when you need to make it a function, we need to focus on it for the story, is when people start to really bring it in to it. Otherwise, nobody really messes with it.
True. I think that depends on whether or not you're writing hard science fiction where you
Yeah.
kind of have to deal with some of that stuff. Me personally, I don't think I'm smart enough to deal with it properly unless that's a key component of the story. So I just ignore it and move on, and nobody says shit. You know, I talk about using stasis and things like that to basically protect them from the gravity and also for time to pass without them knowing about it. So if a trip takes 6 weeks, you know, they don't have to stand around and look at each other for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Also
And
means the
it's-
ships are smaller.
Yeah, and in popular culture, both written and screen, the idea of putting humans in stasis for long-term travel is kind of like, oh yeah, that's a totally valid thing, and you can just kind of bless it and move on. And you just say, yep, they're in stasis. Oh, okay, cool, we're in stasis.
Yeah, and there's
It's like-
really just, if you're
Yeah.
going that direction and you do it early, nobody's expecting you to write a tome on how your stuff works.
No.
Rule 34, hard or soft science fiction. Thanks for that, Brett. Time
Someday
is
I-
one of those wonky things that I may, now that we've had this conversation, I might actually deal with that in the second and third books in the new trilogy. I may actually do that. Because I could cut the time down that they're gone. That is possibilities.
Or you could have, I mean, I know people are often very divided on parallel storylines, but
Yeah.
having a storyline, having chapters from the perspective of one vessel at a time and then another one. Why is
Yeah, I
there
thought
a
about
space
that too.
trumpet in Discord? It looks like a space trumpet.
That's the Destiny from Stargate Universe.
Okay. Space
That is a pretty ship.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty huge.
It was monstrously huge, and they ran that ship for 3 seasons, and they still hadn't fully explored all of the ship because they had to slowly go through restoring atmosphere and connections and stability, and the bad maintenance on it was a huge plot element that kept biting him in the ass.
The ship kept breaking down.
It's 1,000,000 years old. It's run by a computer and it's falling apart, literally. That's always a fun thing to do, is to put people on a ship that's falling apart.
I agree.
Yes.
I
Yes.
agree. I agree. Whether they found it like that or it just broke. Where now it's like a cascade system failure where you've got an engineer just basically wanting to pull his eyes out of his head for all the shit that's broken. You got a captain who's sitting there, how the fuck are we going to go anywhere? You got a crew who's completely stressed out because they're constantly having to do maintenance duties on shit that's falling apart. That's great stuff. That is great stuff. Matt says time was a big thing I explored with the portal type short. Gravity affects time, so high grav to low grav time runs different. Go through the portal until you get squished or torn apart.
Yep.
Wow, what's that feedback?
I don't know. I do not know. I do not like it, Sam. I am. Is JR always still bitching about SG Universe?
Well, obviously.
I never got into the Stargate stuff. So apart from the
Stargate
first
Universe
movie.
was a terrible one to compare it to because it was by far the weakest and worst of the Stargate shows. We'll wait and see how long it takes JR to lose his mind.
4,
Probably not long.
3, 2, 1.
I think another thing you got to worry about is fuel.
Yeah.
How much fuel does it take?
Or does it? What's the conventional fuel source? Is it?
The souls of dead children.
Stop giving us spoilers about your new series, Paul. Jeez.
I could actually get away with that in a certain book. I
Probably
could do
could.
that.
But so do people with warp cores? You just get one and then it runs, unless you have to do the stupid thing and eject the warp core. Well, then you're just stuck.
Pretty much.
What does it run on?
You're a derelict. You can't travel between. You're stuck in the system.
Right. And then you've got some you have some, like, I think the fueling thing is often for like your in system ships, so your fast packets, your planet to planet or station to station transport. But if you start looking at bigger ships that go between systems, then I think that's another thing that gets hand waved real fast.
Xander says it runs on hopes and plot points. You know, that's a good way of putting it in a lot of ways.
This is the USS Assumption right here.
Anyone remember City of Lost Children, where a guy stole the dreams of children to reverse his aging process? No, I don't know that one. That sounds creepy as shit, though.
That's Dorian Gray taken to a whole new level. Damn.
Huh. Okay.
Although,
you need to remind me about that, Brett. I need to look up that. I need to look that up. Yeah, it sounds crazy. Stole the dreams of children. God, who would want that? Who wants to steal the dreams of children? Have you seen the dreams of children? Better plot than Disney's Wish. Ow.
Have not seen it.
Yeah, I haven't seen a Disney movie in forever, and I'm kind of pleased about it. Kind of pleased about it.
There's a joke to be made there, and I...
Is it an After Dark joke?
No, it's a Disney joke.
Oh.
I mean, you could finally choose one that would be... You could finally choose Disney movie to see, and it would be the first time in forever that you've seen a Disney movie.
All right, fine.
All right.
Have you seen the Dreams of Children? Not in a long, long time.
Oh.
Yeah. But
no. That right there, the have you seen the dreams of children not in a long, long time, that is the start of some creepy ass horror story. So help me.
that is actually kind of a chilling line. Not in a long, long time. I like it.
Not since.
Not since the fracas, where I was banned from looking at children's dreams.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
I think all three of us basically said Handwavium is the way to go. I know we've had that conversation before, but
Yeah.
this is kind of focused on the star travel portion. But at the same time, you look at all the different ways that we mentioned in this show, from the ridiculous to the sublime, about how these ships can go from one place to another in a hell of a hurry. Mm-hmm. We didn't talk about what happens when you break the speed of light. We didn't talk about all that other nonsense and why so many people want to use portals instead of trying to go, 17 times faster than the speed of light. And the reason why they use those portals is because the portals are less offensive to science-minded people than saying you're going 17 times the speed of light.
And it's easy to explain why someone goes that far and does not turn into human paste.
Exactly. That's the other piece of it.
Nobody wants to scrape that off the cargo hold. That's just a mess. Get the squeegee.
Mandy, but Paul's Way. I still have not seen that flick. I have not seen that flick. And that was really bad, Brett, to quote, what is his name? What is his name? Oh my God, you're going to kill me. What is his name, Brett? It's gone right out of my mind. Barry...
Manilow?
Manilow, thank you. Good God.
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen Mandy. I have not seen that. I need to. It's on my list. I've been busy. I've been very busy. Not that you could tell. I've been busy. Not that you could tell from my workouts. Well, if you have a question or comment about this show, you can send an email to show@deadrobotsociety.com. You can find me on Mastodon at Paul_E_Cooley at VYRSE.social. You can find us on Facebook at the Dead Robot Society Writing Community, where we all mangle the madness. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/DRS Podcast, where we are live every Saturday, 3 p.m. CST. Like and subscribe so you know when we're live. And if you want to support the show, you can find us at Patreon.com/DRS podcast and buymeacoffee.com/DRS podcast, where for as little as $1 a month, you get access to Mistress V reading the phone book.
Do we?
And at our at the $10 level, you get your name read. Your new contract, your employment contract, it's in your inbox. And at $10 level, you get your name read. And our $10 patrons are Nate Cosby, Antoine Batts, Tony L. Joy, Rick Shaw, Lisa Slack, Isabel Cushy, and Tim Niederreiter. Thank you to all of our patrons for making this show possible. Wait, am I missing a Patreon benefit?
I mean, clearly, I got to step up my game. I got to find. Wait, it's 2024. Where the hell are we going to find a phone book?
I don't know.
I mean.
All right, patrons. We will see you in about 10 minutes. The rest of y'all, we'll see you next week. Thanks for hanging out with us. Hope you had a good time. Take care, and we'll see you soon.